Hi, and welcome to Practical Ideas for Growth. I'm Sarah Dobeck, and I am happy to be back here with Katie Renault today on our team. Hi, Katie.
Hi, so nice to be back.
Thank you. We're excited to chat today. We've picked a great topic. We're going to be talking about online reputation management in a spam filled world.
Yeah, this is great. This is something I'm really passionate about. I'm glad we're talking about it. It's definitely a really important topic to be covering.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a ton of bots and spam and just accounts being hacked left and right. I mean, it's been going on for a while, but even commenting on website blog posts, I think we turn off so many comments because we get more spam than anything else, and it's so hard to manage and maintain these days that definitely a challenge and something you have to pay really close attention to.
Yes, there's so many places to be monitoring now, and I know we're going to dive into all of that. We could really talk for an hour about it, but I know we're limited today.
Yeah.
But
Well, let's jump into the conversation, right? And let's talk about it. So for some of our listeners, they might think like, what is online reputation management? Like, what does that mean? And especially in the context of like a CPA firm, like what is that and why should they care about it, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about online reputation management, it's different from public relations. So public relations is really more external and you're being proactive. When you're talking about your reputation management, it's more of an internal activity and you're being reactive. So you're looking for things online. They could be they're about your brand and they're negative or false comments, but they can also be positive things too. You might be monitoring for good news and interacting with it. So we can definitely spend some time talking about both of those scenarios. But as to why should CPA firms care about it? All businesses should care about it, but a CPA firm should care because really the pandemic it drove everyone online. When we were primarily online, but if you were resisting it, you really are online now. So with everyone living online, um, your reputation it really influences a few things here. So you have your prospects, your clients, but also your future talent. So if someone wants to work with you or work for you, they're going out and they're going online and they're looking at your website. They're looking for reviews. They're checking out your social media. You're doing a Google search. They're seeing what comes up when I search your firm name. Is this an organization I want to work with, or is this an organization I want to work for? They're really checking out the quality of the work environment.
Well, and I think even if they don't know that you're on a particular social channel, all of that comes up in Google. So
Mhm.
just Googling your name, it's going to produce results. And so you have to pay attention to what's going out there. Somebody has to pay attention, right? We always say there has to be an owner involved, and to get something done, somebody has to be responsible for the thinking and the doing of some of those things. And so I think it's really important that this be on somebody's radar, and it can be very reactive, and I think you're right in saying that it's not exactly like PR, though the two really cross. It becomes a really gray line because online reputation management is so much about managing your credibility, I think, in the marketplace. And I think for a lot of our firms right now, the issue that we always see popping up is definitely on the recruiting side. Like there's always stuff that's needing to be managed on that piece of it.
Yeah, there you have to be look out there looking. There's so many places, and it could vary from, a disgruntled employee or even someone who just interviewed with your firm and maybe they didn't accept the position, they didn't like how the experience went. They could go out on Glassdoor or Fishbowl or social media and write about their experience. And if you don't know that's out there, it's floating around for others to see. So you really want to know, okay, what's being said out there so that you can address it because you can't always delete it. So you want to know what's out there and be able to respond.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And that's a tough position for a lot of people to be in is like, how do you respond? And I don't know if there's a blanket response that I would give other than to say, like, it depends on the situation and it depends on the comment around some of those things. But it's important to at least show that you're listening, right? And so sometimes the responses are there, but we've absolutely had scenarios where there have been false claims and multiple false claims by disgruntled employees or people that have left or something odd has happened. We had one situation for a client that wasn't even about an employee. It was an interaction that had nothing to do with it. And they picked the person's business and decided to pick the business. And we had to fight some of those things to get those removed and taken down. And some of the social platforms allow you to report misuse or abuse and can get involved, and they'll actually remove those postings, and some don't. And so you really got to pay attention and be responsive on those platforms to know what's going on.
Yeah, the tone matters so much. And like you said, the scenario is going to dictate how you respond, but you definitely don't want to ignore it. So whether you can delete it or address it, you want to make sure you're taking the right approach to these negative comments.
Yeah. So what should anybody that's responsible for managing this, Katie, like what should they be looking for?
So you can use a software for this, but you don't necessarily have to. There's plenty of free tools out there. You could set up Google alerts for your firm name, or maybe some abbreviations, or your slogan, or tagline, or your shareholder name. So you want to be monitoring um, for mentions of your name. You could go out to social media and look for mentions of your firm there as well. So those are just two places that you could start with. That's very easy. And like I said, free. It doesn't cost anything. It just takes the commitment. You have to have someone owning it and going out there and looking. You could also check Glassdoor. That does not require a paid subscription. You can create your profile and check what are people saying about you on Glassdoor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we used to spend a lot of time just monitoring, where our brand mentions would come up. Most of the social platforms are pretty good about pushing that to you anytime your name is tagged, although
Mhm.
not always. It depends on whether it's tagged correctly or not. But most of them have gotten very good about that. It's become overwhelming sometimes when we log into our accounts, but also a really good way to see, what's being promoted, how people are engaging and interacting with some of those comments. But some of those other platforms like Glassdoor, there isn't really a trigger to automatically notify you. Sometimes if you have like a full paid account or something, you can get some of those notifications, but not usually, I don't believe, if you don't have a full paid account or
No,
premium.
you don't get the notification, and even more so, Fishbowl, that's relatively new. Um, it's an app. You're not going to know unless you're on the app, and it's a
Yeah.
place to talk anonymously about the profession or your firm. You can talk with other professionals and exchange information, talk about work-life balance, talk about compensation, and you would have no idea that this exists unless you're out there on the app.
Yeah. So, I mentioned when we joined the call, and I kind of jokingly said this, but we turn off comments on a lot of blog posts. And I know that's one way we found to help combat at least the spam bots that are coming through, because that's the other issue, not just, people that are leaving bad comments, but just spam bots are horrible and trying to get things. And, they've gotten very creative and very good. There's a few that, we have to double check before, but is that something that you usually recommend to clients? And if so, when do we do that, and when not?
So I think it depends on the scenario. So I wouldn't want to turn off commenting on a social media post. Like that's very important. You want to be able to engage. Where I might turn it off is on Facebook. If you're prone to getting in the review section a lot of spam, and you're constantly just getting spam reviews and having to report it, there is a section where you can turn that off on Facebook. There's another section if you have a blog on your website, you can turn on and off the comment section on your website. Not many firms check there. You'd be surprised if you go out on your website and look at your blog, there could be spam reviews piling up there as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good rule of thumb, and something to keep in mind for doing some of that is to just let the market gauge how well and how active they are. I will say, because we get this question all the time, and it has nothing to do with online reputation management. We always get like, we don't get very many comments on X, Y, or Z. And so, it depends on our clients, but I would just say, I think for this profession, that's pretty normal. You're not going to get an overwhelm of comments. on blog posts or things like that. And so you're not usually using it. It doesn't mean that they're not engaging. There's different ways to measure some of those metrics, but definitely agree with you on the social media posts. We want to encourage that. It helps a ton with visibility too, to have comments and see engagement that's coming through some of those. So the other kind of thing that's floated around forever, right? If you've spent any time around marketing, and Katie, I know you have, is it takes X number of positive reviews to outweigh a bad one, right? When we think of online reputation management. And so what's your take on that in the sense of, our digital world that we live in today? Are there a certain number of like positive reviews we have to get to outweigh the one bad review? Because I know that's always a fear that we hear in our clients anytime something happens and we're combating any kind of a negative post.
Yeah, I don't think there's a magic number. I mean, of course, you don't want those negative reviews floating out there, but if they are there, the positive reviews are going to push them down because remember, you can't delete them. You can respond to them, but you can't necessarily always delete them. So those positive reviews are key to pushing down the negative. But no, there's no magic number. I mean, at one point there was Google, their algorithm's always changing, but there was some level of weight to a positive review online. So a positive review can impact your Google ranking, but it's a mystery. No one really knows for sure what is the weight of that positive review.
Mhm.
Google, we wish that they would tell us, but we have no idea.
Yeah, that would kill all the fun though, I think, if they told everybody. I'm not sure they know. I think it's a change on any given day too.
Yep.
So then do we encourage our clients to get reviews online? That's definitely another kind of sticky conversation that we sometimes have with accounting firms.
Yeah, I think that they're great to have, and especially when they come organically. I don't think we necessarily need to be going out there and telling our employees, "Hey, you have to leave a good review for us on Glassdoor." Then it's not going to be organic. It can be done in a very thoughtful way if you want to ask clients or employees and encourage them to make reviews. But I don't think they necessarily need to be mandatory. It's nice when they come organically, and you can use them on things like your website and testimonials and sell sheets, so they translate really well. But if you're going to make the ask, it needs to be done in a thoughtful way, and that's something we have helped firms with in the past.
And so what would be that thoughtful way? Like what's one thoughtful approach you've taken to encouraging? Because I have a feeling we would get a lot of those questions.
Yeah, sure. You could pick a client who, has been a long-standing client of the firm and, say it's been really nice working with you throughout all of these years. Like, would you mind leaving us a review and making it very easy for them? You can't make a big ask. You have to give them the exact link, where to go, make it easy on them if you're going to be asking them to do something.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a tough question, Katie, and you're this is a gray area. Well, not a gray area, but a hot area for most of our firms. What about the employees, right? We said we can't really, we want it to be organic, right? And especially when you think about Glassdoor and Fishbowl, what's an easy way to prompt, right? In a subtle way, or encourage might be the better way that because it's Glassdoor is heavily used, and that's often where we see the most negative posts popping up over time.
Yeah, I know. I mean, being active on Glassdoor, making it known that it's an initiative for the firm. Hey, like this is what your positive feedback on the site can do. It can help build our firm and attract other talent. Being active on there, posting fun pictures of firm events. So just maybe showing them how it's used and how it can help empower the firm.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for asking those tough questions. As we wrap up with our listeners, any final advice on online reputation management you want to share?
I would just say that it can be really overwhelming, but I would start by creating a map. You know, everywhere that you have a presence online, map it out and just have a plan of, who's going to take ownership of monitoring this. As long as you have that, you are setting yourself up for success.
That's awesome. Well, that's really good advice. Thank you, Katie, for joining us. And this was a great conversation today on online reputation management.
Thank you.